Errol Spence big announcement. Next fight or moving up. Alright, y'all, let's get into it. So, the big homie Errol Spence Jr. says he will be dropping a big announcement very soon. Now, everybody's saying that he'll be dropping this announcement this week, but in the tweets that he put out, he didn't refer to a time when he'd be putting out this big announcement. He just said, announcement coming soon. Now, I assume because of everything going on with Terence Crawford, BLK Prime, the David Anise fight, and Blue Blood Sports TV, you will definitely hear Errol Spence Jr. come out, give his side of the story, and announce his next fight. Now, many people are hoping and saying that his next fight is actually going to be Terence Crawford, that there is no other fight to be made besides the Terence Crawford fight. So what Errol Spence Jr. is going to actually do is just wait for Terence Crawford to fight it out with David Anise, and he'll just stay active and pursue Terence Crawford next. Now, this is where a lot of people are saying and that they are hoping that Errol Spence's announcement will be. I believe Terence Crawford fights on December the 10th, and it's crazy that fight's even that close. So I think a lot of people are hoping that Errol Spence is just going to wait it out and wait for that fight to get finished and just decide to fight Terence Crawford in February or March, sometime in the first quarter of next year. Now, how realistic is that actually? How realistic actually is that Errol Spence Jr. could fight Terence Crawford in the first quarter of next year and not take a tune-up fight? Me personally, I would definitely suggest to Errol Spence to take a midterm fight, a tune-up fight, what people call it, simply because his last fight was Ugas. It would have been about 8 or 9 months. It's not bad in between fights, but a fight of the caliber of Terence Crawford, you always want to be coming off some activity. You don't want to go into that fight stiff or with any type of excuses as far as not being ready. So I would suggest that he does take a tune-up fight. The problem with that is if he takes a tune-up fight and it's not a mandatory tune-up fight, there's a possibility they may try to strip him of the titles. Now, this is not guaranteed yet. Nobody's come out and said, like, hey, if he doesn't fight Keith Thurman, or if he doesn't fight Virgil Ortiz, or if he doesn't fight Boots Ennis, then he's automatically going to get stripped. I think that might be what Terence Crawford is hoping for, and that Errol Spence just bows out of the game and goes up to 154, say, hey, I gave it my best shot. I unified 3 titles, but, Crawford, he did what he did, and I couldn't get the 4th, so I'm just going to move on, because that opens the door for Terence Crawford and the rest of the welterweight division at that point. But I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think it might be a matter of Errol Spence petitioning for a fight in between a championship defense, because when he does fight Terence Crawford, it will be a defense of all 3 of those titles. It's just going to depend on how the sanctioning bodies go about it. Are they adamant about the fact that, well, he hasn't defended the IBF or the WBC in over a year, really more like 2 or 3 years. So they're really wanting him to go ahead and defend and give one of the younger guys a shot? Or do they see the magnitude of the situation, which is down the line, at least 5 or 6 months, you could have all of those titles unified and there be a undisputed champion. So instead of breaking that up and making it take longer than necessary, we're going to go ahead and let Errol Spence get a tune-up in before the Crawford fight. No matter who it is. And, it should be fair. And I think that the sanctioning bodies should look into the fact that Errol Spence deserves a tune-up before defending all 3 of those titles. So they should allow him, the same way they're allowing Terence Crawford to take a tune-up with David Anise, and he's not having to take on one of his mandatories, that Errol Spence should be able to get a tune-up against whoever he decides to pick, whether it be a lower level 147 fighter, somebody within the top 10, whether it be Keith Thurman, hey, I'll go ahead and give him a shot. Whether it be Manny Pacquiao. Now, you've heard me say plenty of times that the biggest fight out there and the way that Errol Spence can get the most exposure would be to go ahead and take on Manny Pacquiao. But I think the problem with that would be Manny Pacquiao has a exhibition coming up here in a few weeks. Would he be ready in time to fight Errol Spence in like January, February? That way that they can make a Crawford-Spence fight for like May of next year, going into the summertime, in the spring, summertime of next year, because I think timing is a factor now, because we all know Errol Spence, he's sick of making the 147 weight. He wants to move up. Whether he wants to campaign there longer, now we all know that he said he wants to move up, but I think he was making those claims because he had already went through most of the 147 fighters at PBC. Then there were basically no more in-house fights to be made and no more great welterweight fights to be made. But that was a different time. There's a new time now. Now you got the Virgils of the 147. You got the Bootses of the 147. You got the Sandonises of the 147. You got Terence Crawford still out there. So there are a lot more fights to be made at 147 for Errol Spence Jr. I don't know who he fights at 154, just to start out with. So perhaps he does decide, like, okay, I'll make 147 for another year and a half. Maybe I can get a good, I'll get that big bag of money from Terence Crawford. I'll wait, 6 months for Boots to build his name up a little bit more, and then I can take a big fight with Boots or Virgil, either one of those, and then I can exit 147, having defended my undisputed crown at least twice, maybe even 3 times, because there's a possibility of a rematch clause being in that Terence Crawford fight either way, whether Errol Spence wins or loses. So, and I think that's something that people are overlooking when they keep saying that, yes, he's wanting to make that move to 154, but if he does allow a rematch clause to Terence Crawford, or Terence Crawford insists on a rematch clause, then he has to stay at 147 anyway. He can't make his great escape to 154 until at least the end of 2023 anyway, so he's going to be there for another year. But me personally, I definitely think he should be targeting a Manny Pacquiao fight. I think Manny Pacquiao, if they allow him a tune-up fight, it allows him to get a global audience. Perhaps they could take it over to the Philippines. And it allows for Errol Spence's name to become global and blow up that fight even more. And one more point before I get out of here. I do believe and feel like that Errol Spence, once they do go back to the negotiating table, is going to want even more now because of the antic that Terence Crawford pulled with the David Anese fight and pulling out of the negotiation at the last second. I definitely feel like Spence and Team Spence and PBC are going to play even harder ball with Terence Crawford now, whether he has success with BLK Prime or not. Y'all let me know what y'all think about that down in the comment section below. Hit that like button for me. Share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. You're more than likely to get a response on the tube. So holler at me over there if you want a response. It's your boy, and we on out of here.
It's your boy Keys, neighborhood employee. Niggas knew that I was coming with fire. Y'all ain't up to my pie and up under a car. Your head under a tie, it's the S and the I. Player, we supposed to win. I'm in the booth focusing with coke in hand. Dude hate it when you see the chief running in. Ass mouth hurting like his wisdom teeth coming in. Now that's a roundhouse kick. Come round your house, letting rounds out quick. From Newburgh to downtown, it's that Midwest to down south shit. Y'all ain't fucking with. She chillin', saying tryna put the veal on the mouth. What's good? She nothing, saying tryna show his niggas how to ride.